Growing up, I watched my best friend Joe pull off stunts that defied reason, leaving me wondering how he managed to stay alive. Once, running late as usual, he sprinted after our school bus, grabbed hold of the window bars, and clung on for dear life all the way to school. I remember gripping his hand tightly, afraid that he might slip. Years later, in college, when my late dad's watch slipped down a sewer drain, Joe didn't hesitate. He yanked off the heavy lid and jumped in with a wild grin, shouting,
"Be right back."
Hours passed as I paced the sidewalk, shouting his name, the echoes of my voice growing desperate. Just when I began to fear the worst, Joe emerged from the darkness, covered in grime, but clutching the watch triumphantly. He was an idiot, but he was my idiot. Loyal to a fault, always there when I needed him. Despite coming from wealth, Joe spent most of his time at my place. His parents were always on business trips, leaving their grand mansion cold and empty. Our modest home, with its warm meals and constant chatter, became his sanctuary. He would crash on our couch, share meals with my mom and me, and blend seamlessly into our family. In many ways, he was more than a friend. He was the brother I never had. Unlike Joe's boundless energy, I preferred quiet and solitude. My dad had passed away when I was 8, leaving just my mom and me. Joe filled that void, becoming my constant companion. I couldn't imagine life without him. But as time passed, life pulled us in different directions. I got married, had kids, and settled into a predictable routine. Joe became a nomad, wandering the world in search of adventure. We stayed in touch for a while, but gradually our lives diverged. His stories became more daring, while my responsibilities grew heavier. The distance between us widened until one day, out of the blue, he called. I'll never forget that video call. Joe appeared on my screen, grinning wildly, a massive python draped around his neck.
"Hey, buddy, how have you been?"
He asked, as if everything were perfectly normal. Joe, you have a snake around your neck, I replied, half amused, half concerned.
"Yeah, this is Lizzie. She's a real beauty, but she's kind of strangling me."
He wheezed, struggling to breathe. Joe, don't mess around, that thing looks real.
"Hang on,"
he gasped. And for a few agonizing moments, I watched as he wrestled with the 33-foot python. My heart pounded. But just as always, Joe somehow survived. When he finally managed to wrangle the snake off, he laughed it off like it was nothing.
"And I have a surprise for you. I want you to visit me in South Africa."
I'm not sure. I hesitated. It's not really in the budget, and
"I'm paying for everything. Come on, it'll be fun."
after talking it over with my husband and convincing my boss to give me 2 weeks off, I found myself booking a flight to South Africa. The idea of seeing Joe again after all these years filled me with excitement. When I arrived, Joe greeted me with his trademark enthusiasm. He had been living in South Africa for a year, and he was eager to show me the wonders he'd discovered. Before I knew it, we were barreling through a nature reserve in a rugged Jeep. Joe leaned out of the window, letting the wind whip through his hair, eyes sparkling with that familiar, mischievous glint. Out of nowhere, he leaned over and said,
"I'm going to show you a trick."
Before I could protest, he leapt from the Jeep, striding a few feet away with his back to me. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, a massive elephant emerged. Its gigantic foot rose, poised above Joe's head, and in a split second, smashed him down like an ant. The world seemed to tilt, the scene unfolding like a nightmare I couldn't wake from. One moment, Joe was there, larger than life, and the next, he was crushed beneath the weight of a creature neither of us had noticed. The absurdity, the suddenness left me numb. I had flown halfway around the world to reconnect with my best friend, only to lose him within hours. It was the kind of freak accident you hear about, but never believe will happen to someone you know. In the days that followed, I struggled to make sense of it all. Grief, anger, and disbelief battled for control as I tried to process the loss. How could someone so full of life be gone so suddenly? How could fate be so merciless? But as the shock began to wear off, I found myself reflecting on Joe's life. He had always lived on the edge, embracing each day with reckless abandon. In a way, it was fitting that his life ended as dramatically as he had lived it. Joe wouldn't have wanted it any other way. Thank you for watching, and if you have a best friend you miss, share your message in the comment section below, then share this video with them and subscribe for more stories like this.